allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, establish a quorum, Julie?
Yeah.
Okay, approval of agenda, change of sequence?
I move that we approve the agenda for the May 8th, 2023 meeting.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Yes. Okay, the reorganization of the Board of Education. I'll start with election of president.
I'll nominate Mary Ann Lippert.
I'll second.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any discussion?
She needs to accept the nomination.
Oh, I accept the nomination.
That would have been awkward.
All right, then we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Mary is president, election of vice president.
I nominate Nate Golden.
I'll second.
I will accept. Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? That's the. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and vice president. Nominations for election of treasurer.
I nominate Chris Wisland.
Oh, sorry.
I'll second that.
I'll accept.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this is the clerk, the treasurer. I'm going to take nominations for the election of clerk.
I'll nominate Julie.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Any other nominations? Any other nominations? Discussion? All in favor? Okay, now we need to appoint the UASB rep.
Jason, could you review again what the duties of that representative?
For the WASB representative,
Yes.
it is simply to more or less would communicate, make sure they stay on top of, they're going to get invitations to WASB events throughout the year, and then we'll update the board along with the district administrator. It really is that simple. You're kind of the liaison between the board and WASB.
Any
I'll
nominations?
nominate Rick Winters.
I'll second.
I'll accept.
Okay, are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now call for a motion to appoint the CISA 5 representative.
Same general principle and practices with WASB would be good.
I think they voted Nate to be last time, and it was gonna be a formal motion this time.
Yeah, I'm doing the meeting on Thursday, so.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay, so I make a motion Nate Golden.
Second.
And accept. Any other nominations? Any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, item G, establish the days and times for the school board meeting.
I move to establish the regular Pittsville School District School Board meeting as the second Monday of the month at 7 p.m., with the exception of changing the meeting date and time when deemed necessary.
Okay, we have a second. Is there any discussion? Anybody want to talk about a time change? Okay, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
No, sir.
I'm going to do it.
I'll turn the meeting over to the president.
Thank you. Stay sitting.
Think about it.
Okay, moving on to agenda item number 6, announcements. And the first item under that is the student representative update. Maddie Hensel.
So this month we have a pretty big update. Some exciting news, our senior trip will be on Wednesday. We have 27 students going to the Brewer game down in Milwaukee. They play the Dodgers and we're very excited. And then for student council news, we are having an apparel order for both incoming officers and graduating officers. We ordered sweatshirts and we will be getting them soon. We will also be running a basket raffle at the softball game, which will be held on this Friday, May 12th. The game is against Port Edwards, and we are raising funds for Mrs. Grossman's niece, who's a student at Port Edwards. She was recently diagnosed with cancer, so those funds will go to her family. We have also elected the 2023 and 24 officers for the 4 classes. The representatives' names are listed here, as well as have selected our new student board representatives for next year. We have Katie Fox with us, and Brad Mead along with Sam are at a baseball game. Katie, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure, so for those who don't know me, I'm Caden Fox. I'm one of the active student council members currently, and next year I'm just kind of hoping I'm taking over the responsibilities of Maddie alongside Brad and Sam, so that's it.
Thank you, Katie. We'd also like to thank Ms. Grossman as she finished her first year as our student council advisor, and we look forward to seeing more great things from the student council. On the next slide, we have a flyer from our basket raffle at the softball game. Are there any questions?
A comment. First of all, this is the first time that the school board has done this, having a student representative. You and Sam have really blazed the trail. Thank you so much for bringing us good information all the time and for hanging in there with some long meetings. As a token of appreciation, we, on behalf of the board, I'd like to present you with a plaque. Senator Marilyn Hensel as student representative, Pittsville Board of Education, August 2022 to May 23. Thank you for being an outstanding ambassador for the students at PHS. And the quote, leader who is forever in the learning mode is the one most likely to succeed. Thanks.
Sam and Bradley are both at a baseball game tonight. Mr. Fox, welcome. Thank you again, man.
Oh, okay.
I was going to steal your thunder.
Oh, okay. Well, we're going to move ahead to the next agenda item, number 7, celebrations. We'll start with the academic spotlight, which is on the high school today.
Guys, can I stop for 1 second? Just because we kind of have an impromptu celebration, it was too good not to share. So I'm going to have Dr. Watson share a celebration about our students and staff with everyone here tonight, related to something that just came up.
So I'm going to have Mrs. Friday recording, so I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it there, but our baseball coach can't be here tonight because he's coaching baseball. But this is had a conversation with one of the board members recently about the character of the students in Pittsville. I think every school board and every community wants to believe that their kids have the best character and that they stand above everybody else, but we have evidence. And so we know we have a great community. This is an email I got this weekend that is a testament to what's being done with our baseball program. Good evening. I would like to say thank you to your baseball coach and players for the awesome show of sportsmanship in Wild Rose. Our son was the last to pitch in the blowout game tonight. He's never pitched before. It's always been his dream. Your kids did not know of his difficulties in social situations and the struggles he deals with, but they had kind words and even let him get a strikeout. What we witnessed tonight is a memory this family will never forget. Your team proved kindness still exists. Please tell them to keep up the good work. They're a great team and even better people with an awesome coach. So I want to share that with you.
That was worth going off script.
That was worth every minute.
Okay.
And so the high school will be in the spotlight.
Okay, so as you know, we are spending our Wednesday afternoons working in PLC groups, so this is the majority of the language PLC, and so that's what we've chosen to focus on today rather than any sort of one specific class, is the work we've been doing on Wednesdays. So we can skip ahead. You can hit next. I didn't know how to get rid of those transitions. Oh, back one, sorry. So when we started working with our PLC, we had a couple of goals in mind. The first one stemmed from us looking at previous years' ACT data, specifically, along with a couple other state tests, and recognizing that there is what I might say is like a light deficit in our writing skills. We were not happy with what we were seeing in terms of students' ability to write. So we figured that focusing on writing would be good for the students and would potentially lead to growth in other places as well. So that's what drove our discussion towards writing, which we then transferred into coming up with a common rubric. So the ACT data that we looked at, we broke that down into how they score their writing, which led us to aligning it with one of the state standards, standard 3, which is realistically just traits of good writing that can be crossed across any subgenre, argumentative writing, literary analysis, etc. So it's focusing on using organization, transitions, and then specific strong word choice. So we have developed a rubric that covers those that's aligned with that standard. And then finally, what we did is we brought it to our vertical team, because once a month we also meet 4 through 12 English teachers. And so we are currently in the process of aligning that standard vertically to make sure that there's not any gaps between grade levels or parts of that standard that aren't getting touched on, and making sure that it's a unified look at student writing from 4th grade all the way through 12th grade. So that's currently where we're standing with our PLCs, is we're getting ready to meet with the rest of our vertical team to physically lay out and look at those rubrics and make sure we're not leaving any gaps before we start working with them all in tandem for the next year. But we recently got ACT data back and older ACT data, so we also spent some time looking at that, so we can hit next. So this is some older ACT data, and there's a lot of colors there. We had to create our own sort of cut scores because ACT makes theirs. But these are the different ways that the writing is scored. So they're ideas and analysis, development and support, organization, and then language use and conventions. They are each scored by 2 different people, so that your score is a combination of 2. So the ACT language is here on the left, and we decided that if you're seeing these scores, way up there, that we have advanced, proficient, basic, and then below basic. So you'll see a lot of red and yellow is what we started working with, and those are the 2 colors that we really would not prefer to see a lot of. So this is where we started. And then using that rubric we created, we started applying it in high school to just as sort of practice, unofficially, to student work, to see if it was something we could norm, if it was something we could discuss, if it was something that was even giving us usable feedback. So if we go to the next one. this is what the rubric looks like for the 9th and 10th grade one. So we have it separated by word choice, transitions, organization, and a range of proficiency levels. We're obviously hoping to move students in this direction. So we introduced this to students, we let them look at it, we explained what it means, we practiced applying it to their writing, and then we started tracking some of their assessments. So now we can go to the next one. So this is just one way that we were tracking some 10th grade data, and we were talking individually about different pieces of writing that the students did, and applying that rubric to the writing, talking about it in our PLC, making sure that we were seeing useful feedback, which we were, because you can see that proficient, basic, there was a slight drop. So that immediately let us know that we needed to like reteach or re-go over some areas or look at the rubric again. And then that allowed students to show growth throughout the various assessments that we did. So this is the kind of data we've been tracking in our PLCs. We've been having these conversations together, handing out student writing samples, looking at them with the rubric, and then, I think we can go to the next one. And then we got the most recent ACT data back. And so once again, this is the chart that you saw with all the colors on it before, but from the original chart we were looking at, which was the class of 2023, we started focusing on writing towards the end of last year and have been doing it so far this year. And so growth was made in every aspect of writing so far. We would like to see more, but we're happy that we're trending in the right direction. And then, is there another one? There is. Yes. Okay. This is the confusing one. This is my color coding. So I multiplied the number of students that took the ACT by those 4 different categories, since they're earning a score in each one, even though it's not their composite score. And so in 2023, there was a total of 156 areas in which you could have a score for writing. And so you can see the percentage of students that were writing it below basic in some aspect of the ACT, not overall, but 43% below basic, 35 basic, and 20% proficient. We've moved that down in the below basic by a significant amount, and then started moving more students up into basic and proficient with the class of 2024. So this is a nice little overview of the incremental but still important movement that's happening in students' writing skills. That's the language ACT portion of this.
Questions on that part? I have a question. It sounds like you started working on this last year before the PLCs were even established, that you folks took the time as a group to look ahead and start to put some of this in place. Is that correct?
Yeah, we started focusing last year on reading unofficially, but we were finding that when we went to discuss the growth students were making in their abilities to read, what we had actually been measuring was their ability to write about what they had been reading. So we didn't feel like we were getting an accurate look at their reading, because everything they were giving us was their writings. And so if that was, if their writing wasn't good, then it didn't look like their reading was good either.
Right.
So we decided that perhaps a switch to writing might allow us to eventually get a better and more accurate view of the other aspects of the language department.
Thanks.
And I would jump in about the value of the vertical component that you guys are talking about. And the ACT data is by cohort. You have different classes. So there is value in this, but the formative assessment they're talking about, the vertical alignment, is why that's so important, is that we can track. The cohort data is valuable, that you can see gaps, like you can look for trends in certain areas and stuff, but none of these things work in a silo. So this is wonderful work you guys are doing. Very impressive.
And do you require all students taking the ACT to do the writing portion? That's required here. Okay.
It's only junior year though. The freshman sophomore ACT version isn't writing on it. So if they're not collecting data, we don't know until junior year.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, and then part of the spotlight, you can sit down. No, you're good. And Lily are gonna come up, we're gonna talk a little bit about the Global Scholars Program. I know last year we actually had you guys like approve our Global Scholars, we went away from that this year, but I still wanted them to share what they've done.
Can I stop you for one quick second, only because I didn't know if you know. Can you guys introduce yourself?
Absolutely. I'm Tracy McGuire. I'm the district instructional coach.
And what's your name?
Tracy McGuire.
Thank you.
I'm Denzel Flores. I'm the UBLA teacher in high school.
Thank you and welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks. Sorry.
And Tracy is the instructional coach, kind of hops between PLCs, but she spends a lot of time with ours. She spent a lot of time with our vertical PLC as well, and has done a really great job of guiding us in the process of trying to do more vertical learning. So, welcome, former ELA teacher as well. Okay, so I'm going to talk just briefly about the program. I know I spoke about this last year, but I'll just go over the basics, and then they're going to present kind of the more interesting part, like what they feel like they really got out of it. So, if you want to go to the next slide, Debbie, can I touch this? Do I need to make you do that, or just do it? So the Global Scholars Program is a DPI certificate that students can earn, and it basically says that they've gotten a globally grounded education. It has some different requirements. They have to do a certain amount of coursework, so that is 4 years of the language, and then 4 other credits in globally focused work. So that might be international business, that might be, what's your class? Worldland? What other classes did we take? Global foods, it was ecology. So it's kind of cross-curricular, but it's really about having a global focus and an eye on how, everything that we do here impacts the world at large. And the next thing they need to do are some global experiences. This can be relationships with international students, going to
Like cultural fairs and stuff.
Cultural fairs, different lectures, we've done a few different things that way.
Talking apps too.
Hello Talk, yep, they've used some apps to have pen pals, that's one that they can use. So there's a long list that they can use there. They do a cultural literacy component where they have to review 8 works and they have to write up how people reacted in those works of art. So 4 of them have to be literary and the other 4 could be movies or songs or art. But basically looking at how people with different perspectives react differently given their cultural perspective. And they learn about those things in World Lit as well as in international business and their other courses where they're really thinking critically about how we don't all have the same worldviews across the world and how that might impact the way people see things from business to just everyday life. And then the last one is community service. They have to do 20 hours of community service and organize a project that impacts a global cause of their choice. So that's what they're going to talk about. Before I let them go, I just want to mention at the last coordinator meeting, they did announce that the DPI is now recognizing this as a non-certified, maybe Mr. Headfinger, Ms. Meister can help me out. Non-certified, what do you get for your certificates are city? No, like, there are certified career, like ACP things. Your credentials are not looking for. My brain is not looking this afternoon. Credential, like when they get their credentials, they're career certified because they're tied to a career path within the ACP pathway. The DPI has just gotten to prove that this is a non-certified career pathway credential, which is the first step to moving it to a recognized career credential. So they're working on adding education as a pathway in the ACP. And so they're trying to get this certification listed under education because it's really about that career is what it's going to tie to. So that's pretty exciting for the certificate. It carries a little bit more weight. It's still non-certified, but it's on the way to being a career recognized credential, which is pretty exciting. Okay. Lily's going to start. She's going to talk about a mission trip she did for her global experience, and then Emma's going to share how that tied into her community service, or their community service project. Okay.
So in, I think it's February, I went on a week-long mission trip, and it was very extremely last minute. I found out like the week before I was leaving that I was going to go on this, but My mom likes to do spontaneous things, and I thought she was totally kidding. And so I was like, yeah, I mean, I have my passport and everything, and so I ended up going on this missions trip, and I was like, kind of needing some things to fill in my gaps, and I was like, perfect, like this is gonna work for my credentials I need for this, because I haven't even started on it yet. And so when I went on this missions trip, we obviously went to, I went to Roatan, Honduras, and we were able to like help distribute food, provide like medical care. We built a house and finished it there in a matter of 2 weeks. There was a trip that went right before us who worked more with construction and like medical stuff. And so we got to like wrap everything up and and help like, well, that's a little bit later. But we were able to help them like teach the kids, deliver backpacks, because there's like a huge list of requirements for parents there who send their kids to school. And they have to like wear uniforms, and a lot of parents don't have enough money to pay for their kids to go to school. And so we donated a whole bunch of backpacks, a whole bunch of food, everything. And we were able to like really integrate into the culture within the week we had. We didn't stay in like a super fancy resort. I mean, it wasn't in like the most sketchy place in town, but we definitely got to go into like their culture, and it was completely like eye-opening. Like they don't have garbage systems. They don't have good healthcare. It costs $40 to go get a bullet removed if you get shot. Like it's completely different than here in the US. And basically I just spent my entire time playing with all the kids. And that was really fun. And I was able to use my minimal Spanish, because some of the people on our trip could say like a lot, and that was about it. And so we had 2 translators with us, but I was able to like talk to most of the kids and like talk to their parents a little bit. So it was really nice to actually be able to use my Spanish, because in the US I'm like I meet people at work and I'm like, I don't know enough Spanish to talk to you, sorry. Like I can understand what they're saying, but formulating my own words to talk to them is a little bit harder. So being able to talk to the kids is like a good push in the right direction of being able to use my own Spanish. And then this is actually, it ties into what Emma's going to talk about. Compassion in Action drills wells in Roatan, Honduras. And they had just, right after we left, they broke water on a new well there. And so it just needs piping to a village. And so we raised funds to help support more well drilling there. And
okay, so we had 2 parts to our community service aspects of our project for Compassion in Action. So the first part was we created a presentation and we went around to classes that had science classes, and we talked about sustainable water and why it's important for places to have it. And so there's a picture of us presenting in these classes. And I mean, with the younger grades, I don't think they really understood why it was important, but I think they understood how to interact and why their parents would think it's important stuff. So they were just able to interact with us. And then the second part was we had a fundraiser, a 50-50 ball toss at the basketball games. And so people would not just have them give money, because that's not fun. They want to be able to interact with you, and but it feels more important when they can interact and be social with it. So we made a game where they had to throw tennis balls into the center of the court and land on a circle. And whoever got the ball closest or on the circle, they got the money. And everyone was so generous that they just always donated it back.
Nate knows all about it because he won.
Yeah. And then we wrote letters and sent all the money back to Compassion in Action so they could go dig some wells for the clean water in Honduras.
And you raised $536.
That's 5 wells? What's it?
I don't remember.
I think it's 5 wells that they can dig in Texas.
Any questions for the girls?
First of all, Lily and Emma, thank you so much for everything that you did here. This is a very great project, and a lot of responsibility. You just mentioned fundraising, also a lot of work. And great job with everything you put into that and the rest of the team. Just kind of curious on, you mentioned, Lily, some of those donations. So what kind of organizations donated to this?
So Compassion in Action is actually out of Marshfield, a church runs it, and basically they just received donations from a lot of different places, and they actually asked me to like look into grants and some other things so that they could get more funding, but they completely raise all of their funding themselves.
I'm sorry, what did you say it was?
Compassion in Action.
Other questions?
How many students participated in this global project this year? Just the two of you, or do
Well, we had a little bit of help from Matt because she's an international club, mainly just because we're in Spanish class together, so she wanted to sit with us at the basketball game. So she helped a little bit, mainly just keeping the kids out of the ball bucket because they were getting dumped while the boys were playing, and it was not the best thing. And so we had a little bit of help from her, but mainly the seniors are in charge of running the program. And we didn't really talk about it all that much with International Club, but we actually did, me and Emma, our junior year, did a fundraiser with Ruth and Savannah, and we did like the Pulsar bracelets, and that was more of like tying the whole International Club, so ours was a little bit more separate.
And
It's
is
a
it
4
credit?
year. It's not for credit this time, no.
Okay.
It is a 4-year credential though, so they started as freshmen, so I have, I think about 10, maybe more now. There's more interest as our students are doing really cool projects, and that helps attract more attention to it. So I think 10, maybe a few more that are currently in the system trying to get it, so they'll come along on cultural experiences, and they're working on their literacy pieces. And eventually they'll all be culminating in their senior projects.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next we have the Panther Pride Award.
Dr. Watson.
So this one's a bit of an ambush, but I think he's probably on to me. So I tried to convince Stephen that he was here to present on the milling machine. I don't know if you ever believe me or not. But it's a Panther Pride Award for him. I'm gonna give a little background to it, and I'll turn it over to the students for that. So if you remember, we brought the Panther Pride Award as an idea. We wanted to talk about people who go above and beyond the call of duty, helping students what we're supposed to do as a profession. But when you're doing the small things that are making the institution move forward, and when they go beyond that, become the large things that make the industry leaders, then deserve to be recognized. I can't think of anybody for whom that's more true than Mr. Hedfield. As we research this, Stephen, you know this, but you know your job far better than I do. And as I started to look into it, obviously it's clear to me from the moment I started here that you were above and beyond in many, many ways, but I don't even think I knew until I started researching this quite how far it went. And so, for instance, the room we're in exists partly because of the advocacy that Stephen had for the district, and it goes far beyond that, back into even helping us to get the school forest going. So the community work and outreach through the youth apprenticeship, the connections that he makes, the connections he makes with students, the classes he's developed, just it goes far down the list. And so I asked staff members to contribute to add what kind of contributions he's made, and if I went through them today, we'd be here for a while. It's pretty substantial stuff. And so if you think about the average educator that come in and do their job, and they do a good job, when you go above and beyond that, you're adding new equipment, you're adding new resource, you're adding new opportunities. And what our kids get here, I kid you not, it's a unique experience that you can go to any other school just like ours, and ours, we have a superior product here because of what Mr. Hedfield does. So I'm gonna read the award, and then I'm gonna turn it over to the teenagers here. They're gonna add their piece to it. So you guys ready? All right, come on up. So here's the words we wrote for Mr. Hedfield together. Mr. Hedfield, for extraordinary service to students and the district, you have been nominated for the Panther Pride Award. You went well beyond the obligations of your role in the high school staff to better the organization and the quality of education for our students, like these guys. From leading professional development to advocating for technical education, to leading the CTE Academy and overall excellent work with students, your efforts have greatly enhanced the education of students in the Pittsville School District. Your efforts are a credit to yourself, your students, and the staff, and your little guys in the back here. You bring great credit to the school district and you're an extraordinary asset to our students. Gentlemen?
First of all, I would like to say that he ambushed me on the way in. He was like, "So, what are you here for?" Yep, you'll see what presenting I was on there. He found out. So, yeah, I'd really like to say that he helped me out a lot with my youth apprenticeship and kind of guiding me into the career path that I really wanted to be in. And I think he would do the same for any other person that walks through the doors of the school. So, thank you.
Very similar. Ms. Hadfield helped me out a lot with my youth apprenticeship, and I'll be working there this summer too. I know he helps a lot of other kids with classes, and he recently got a grant for a new CNC machine that Logan really enjoys. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hadfield. Now we have somebody who can say
Supposed to say something?
I don't have much to say, but thank you. It's been a blessing to work here and see my program develop with the support of the school board and students and administrators and my fellow staff members and and my students. 'Cause, that's really what I'm doing it for is what what they get out of the experience. And as they talked about, youth apprenticeship, work-based learning, those are above and beyond things, but just within classes and projects that they can do. And just, I often tell them the amount of technology and things that we have at this very small school district is far and beyond what many large school districts have, and just the experiences that they can get out of that. And I always wish like what I would do if I was a student in their shoes in this building and what I could accomplish. So I love teaching here, and I always just kind of look forward to like what is the next thing, like what are we going to do to keep pushing that, take it forward. And so with the support of my kids and family, I go to school here, and they like to push the buttons too, and watch the machines go, not my buttons. They do though. They like to watch the machines and see all the technology and learn. And I often think they're going to be in the trades if I have anything to say about it. So, anyways, thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hatfield.
Thank you.
Did you guys come here all night for this?
Hi, Hatfield.
Thank you.
Please get the how do we do?
I do a board report once a year, and I can share with you offline if you'd like.
Compared to last year, and are we moving?
They're down a little bit. But I mean, that happens because you're comparing last year's kids against this year's kids. And so looking at this year's kids' growth, I can look at that with the board if you'd like.
Okay.
Okay. Moving along, Roman numeral number 8, district administrator update.
So, if you remember, I skipped the district administrator update last month because we had a long meeting, so I made up for it. Instead, it's this month. All joking aside, it's going to be quick, but there are a lot of, perfect segue. Dr. Watson talking about Stephen and our facilities. You'll often hear me say it's about people, not processes. You got to have the people. He mentioned the beautiful facilities we have here. Without the people that we have in this department, the CT department is exemplary here. Phenomenal department. So a lot of the focus you're going to see here is on some great things we have going on, some celebrations within the district. So
Did you share it with him?
I did. Not. I thought that, well, look at Nate, can you be my verify, what does that say? She's an editor? It says step editor. I'm gonna reshare it, this is done, because it was probably my mistake.
I'm gonna move so I can actually see it, just because I.
Try that.
It's not on our,
Yeah.
it's not in our board report.
Will we be getting this then via email?
Yeah, it's always,
right now?
it's actually uploaded, all these are uploaded on the website, right next to the board.
Right, but I mean, right now, during this meeting,
You're not
because
having-
I'm going to have to move too.
It was? Oh, well, that's why I'm
Okay.
doing weird notes, yes.
Okay, so then I'll be moving also.
I will. Is it, yeah, will you just, I'll send it after the fact then, yeah.
Yeah.
That was why I got all the weird notes and comments, because we didn't save this, or sent. I will not make that mistake again. I had to put this picture in just because it's so darn cute, I couldn't pass it up, with the, one of our kindergarten classes with their, giraffe paintings they did. Every time I'm feeling bogged down during the day, I go walk the primary hallway, and it's kind of a pick me up. We had two outstanding performances at State Solo and Ensemble. Avery and Natalie. Natalie received a first for her trumpet solo and a second for her flute solo, and Avery received a second for piano solo. So we had a bunch of recognitions, like April and May is like recognition time in school districts. We did our Administrative and Professionals Day, and what we did, we would like to try to do something out of the ordinary to recognize each of our groups during their weekend. We had our administrative assistants take lunch together, a long lunch while the administrators attempted to cover the offices. It's a good perspective to know how much goes on when you're covering the offices for them to do that. So we have great administrative professionals here, and they're kind of the brains behind the operation in all of our buildings and at the district level. School Lunch Hero Day last week, Matt and his crew, once again, you'll hear this theme again and again. For a district our size, we just have outstanding facility services. Our lunch program, outstanding. Matt goes above and beyond along with his crew. First week in April, we celebrated Paraprofessional Educational Assistant Appreciation Day. Matt Sherwood organized, staff brought in potluck in both buildings and had a potluck lunch in honor of the administrative assistants in both buildings and the lounges. National Principals Day was last week. Dr. Watson and Mrs. Friday are our principals. You saw my weekly update. I'm sure many of you had heard. That was my first Crystal Apple event. Unbelievable. Very well done. Heather put together a very heartfelt video for Mr. Klein that was played at the event, and there were tears, multiple people, in a very, very wonderful program, all four of the Crystal Apple recipients. Alex was also one of the 25 teachers of distinction that was recognized at that, but it was a wonderful evening. Dr. Watson, I did not make the event, but PHS Drama presented last night. Do you want to talk about it at all?
Well, just briefly, they had a year off, right? Last year, the program kind of went on a break. So coming back with a new teacher, they need to rebuild their audience and their club. And so they had just 3 active members at this point, but what they put into it yesterday, the heart they put into it. I'll put it this way, my 4-year-old screamed all the way there, paid attention all the way through it, and then screamed all the way home. So there's clearly something about it. All being aside, it was really wonderful. We have a few quite talented and passionate lesbians, and we're going to build it. They already have next year's play ready. They've already bought the rights to it and the date set. So we're going to move forward with this.
Thank you. So Earth Day, for Earth Day, we had our high school students were out and around the community. We have some pictures with some samples of some of the work they did. Very positive feedback from the community with the work that the kids did, and with this reoccurring thing about talking about the character of our students, a lot of compliments about how our students and staff carried themselves in the community. Prom last weekend. Kids clean up so well. You know, nowadays they wear all the torn clothing all the time and stuff, and they should dress up more often. Good. Spring sports update. So we have our softball program. I asked each of the coaches to just kind of send me a blurb about some season highlights and kind of talk about just the kids and the overall experience of the season. Because I know, the record, we can talk about the record, but just that general experience. I've said it before, sports were a huge part of my life. And many of our students are involved in sports or activities. And I wanted them to talk about just kind of that overall experience. So there's the softball poster. So last place last year, right now they're in third place in the conference and are having an outstanding season. I've been fortunate enough to go watch them play several times this year, skipping back and forth between the baseball. That's one of the nice things about how the games are coordinated, so you can buzz back and forth and see multiple events on the campus. I don't say this lightly, and this is actually, Coach Lislin actually wrote this, but I agree with it too, is they play as a team, and it shows in the way they treat each other and their opponents. And I can say that's true for all of our spring sports. The opposing teams, the umpires, just very respectful. And that's just impressive, because that's not everywhere that you see that. Truly is, and I wish it was, but it's not. Some of the highlights, Catherine Schooley's deep catch at defense against Rochelle, Haley's grand slam and a pickoff at first base to end the Nakusa game. I did have to message your mom back and say, hey, tell me you got a picture of the ball. That's the thing with home runs, is usually get, so that's in there. Lana going 3 for 4 and then pitching an outstanding game against Wild Rose, and then Leah Downs diving catch in the outfield were some of the things that stuck out. Go ahead and get some photos. Oh. There's the home run ball.
Yeah.
You got a hand in it. I was hoping for like a sunglasses pose, right? Is that Dad's hand?
That's it.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Track and field. I'll tell you, track and field is one of those unique sports. Having coached it for a long time, you can have two ways to be successful. You can have a lot of kids that can fill a lot of events, or you can have a few kids that are very good in multiple events. So two ways you can win. You can win track meets. There was a comment made in here by Coach Folt that kind of resonated with me here. I'll go to the next slide. They're preparing for the conference meet in Tri-County. The girls are attempting to win their third conference meet in a row coming up this weekend. The boys also have a chance if things fall into place. That comes down to just who scores. You need some people to step up and maybe score above their normal place and have one of those performances. These next couple pieces were ones that stuck up to me. She said every athlete in a team has earned a personal record in either a field or a running event. The thing about it is get better every meet out. You're not really necessarily, you want to beat the other kids in the events, but it's also about improving on your own personal times and distances. And then this last piece, the kids have been willing to step up all season and try different events and help the team and get out of their comfort zone a little bit. That's one of those things I love about athletics. Helps kids get out of their comfort zone, play in some positions they don't normally play. So some track pictures. And I will tell you, the high school track athletes helped. My daughter's on the junior high track team who had the whole meet. Number one, what a well-run meet. I've been at a couple of away meets that take forever to run, very well-run meet. But our high school athletes that were helping out at all the events, unbelievably respectful. They were helping the younger kids from all the teams, not just our athletes, giving them tips as they were doing the events and stuff. Those are the things, as we talked earlier, that seem to be kind of in our fabric here. Just it's a common theme. The baseball team, who's playing tonight, are you getting updates? Yes, you did. So the baseball team currently playing tonight over on the turf in Rapids. Go ahead. Next. So they're currently sitting at 11-4, and they're in first place in the conference. Their 4 losses all came to larger schools. And one of the nice things about playing up in the regular season is that when you get into the playoffs, you're with teams in your own division. And playing up against high-level competition prepares you for the playoffs. So one of the most exciting wins was last week. They went into extra innings against Iola, who they had lost to the year before the regional final. And Brad Mead finished the game. You'll be seeing Brad in future board meetings with a walk-off base hit in the bottom of the 9th inning. So 2 wins over ranked opponents. meeting number 10 and number 3 in D4 so far this season. The JV baseball team is also having a great season. And they played a full schedule, once again, full of bigger schools. And I would tell you, I think I saw it, I wasn't willing, I'm too cheap to pay for the subscription, but I think I saw something come up on my feed tonight that we moved up in the rankings. I didn't want to do the pay click, so I figured I'd just ask someone tomorrow what we moved up to because I wanted $5. And I was like, I'll just ask someone at school tomorrow, I'm gonna pay $5. I was never a baseball player, but there's something about the pinstripes. I've always loved watching baseball. Softball.
These pictures are excellent.
Yeah, these.
It's Marlis or Kim.
Yeah, Marlis, most of the pictures are Marlis that were used in the presentations, and Kim sent me a few. Okay, so that's our spring sports updates for right now. So our CISA instructional audit, I wanted to update you on a few items. As you may remember, a few board meetings ago, I told you we had utilized our remaining 8 CISA days that we pay for as part of our consortium fee to have Jake Bull, who's the curriculum specialist at CISA, come in. He started with a survey that went out to all professional staff in the district where they answered some questions about materials and curriculum and instructional resources and needs. He then came in and met over a period of days with every single professional staff in the district. And then he is going to prepare a report that's going to detail our strengths, gaps, and then opportunities, and we'll utilize that during our strategic planning process. And you may remember, and I can re-forward it, I had sent you a couple samples of what they had done for other districts, and I'll send that back through again. It's a very comprehensive report. It is by no means going to be like a magic bullet to fix everything that we need to address, but it certainly allowed us to kind of reflect on where we may have some gaps and have some needs. So that'll be coming up here. They had said originally mid-May. We had, the meetings took so long, which is a good thing. Staff sat down with him, he said they were excellent meetings, that he had to extend that a couple of days to meet with all staff. So we're probably looking at by the end of next week that we'll have that report. So that leads into our strategic planning update. We ended this survey for stakeholders a week ago Friday, and then the CISA compiled the data into a breakdown by, so we had 378 responses, which was impressive. We were very pleased with that. About half were students, because we had our 7th through 12th grade students, or through 11th grade students fill out the survey. That's a good perspective to have. It's an important perspective. They broke the data down into the student data and then the adult data, because we had 15 community members who are not parents fill out the survey. Those were the folks that were directed through the Pittsville record to call in and get the survey, or were given the link through someone else. So that was actually, we were excited about that, because that's usually you have a hard time reaching the demographic. If you don't have kids, how do you reach them? And then we did get, I believe it was 41 parents, families. So we then formed a committee made up of board, admin, staff, families, community members, and students, okay? One of the things that I have heard repeatedly from Fran Finkel and from Jana, our consultant through Midstate, it can't be top heavy. Your strategic planning committee needs to be representative of all stakeholder groups, and it can't be top heavy as far as board and administration. It needs to be driven by the group, because it is a community plan. So I think we did a very good job. We have 2 admin reps, we have 2 board reps. We have 9, as of today, 9 staff members, who 7 of the 9 are also parents of students in the district. We don't count that as parents, because we wanted to have separate where we had parents that were not staff members. We have 2 more that I'm waiting for commitments from tomorrow, but that'll put us up to 6 parents who are not staff members. And then we have 4 community members who are business owners or members of the community and clergy. So that is our, Dr. Watson right now has secured 2 students.
2 with 2 more pending.
With 2 more pending to have those folks. So that group will meet this Wednesday for the first time from 5:30 to 8 at the high school library. And Jana, our consultant through Midstate. So we waffled back and forth. If you remember, at one point I was going to lead the planning, Well, after Mary Ann had communicated with Midstate, they reached out to me because they offer similar services, much more affordable than what we were looking at through the WASB piece. And the more people I talked to said, it's not about capacity to lead, it's about the optics of having the district administrator lead the process. It starts to feel like it's my strategic plan and not the district's. And many people had said it's really important to get someone someone to come in and kind of facilitate this. So, that was something that really resonated with me. I've had multiple meetings with Jana, who's going to be leading this. She's experienced, she's done it in both the healthcare industry and with many school districts where she's led this process. Very, very optimistic about Wednesday. So the first meeting, we're going to look at our mission and vision. If you recall, the mission statement and the vision, and decide, the group will then look at the feedback from the stakeholders. We're going to have that. We're going to go through the feedback, and then we'll make a decision whether or not we feel that the mission and vision, are they good how they are? Do they need to be tweaked? Do they need to be rewritten? And then we'll move forward with that. And then the data, I want to emphasize, this is a process that's driven by that survey feedback. Like, we certainly on the committee are going to be able to disseminate that data and have these discussions, but the committee needs to pay attention to what that data said as far as what is valued by the students and the staff and the community and the families, as far as what we would look at eventually for establishing those pillars, which will be coming at the later meetings, establishing pillars and then setting SMART goals. And then action steps is when it really, so that we don't end up having this be a dusty binder that sits on a shelf that we look at once a decade. It can't be that. It's a living document. Your strategic plan is a living document. And I've told the board from the beginning that I plan on, it's part of an accountability piece for us as a school and the MIN team is we're going to have performance indicators that we are going to post for those SMART goals and those action steps that we're going to post on our website and give the community an update and the families an update on how we're doing in each of those areas that are established as what are the pillars, what are these focus areas. And if you remember some examples we talked about, could be like facilities. That was one of the questions. What do you value? What are the top 5 priorities? And then we'll look at what that data says and the committee will establish what are those pillars. Now, is there a magic number? No, it depends on what we see with the data. As far as what the stakeholders view are those pillars, those important areas, those will be kind of underneath the mission and vision, and then those pillars will establish those goals. And what it's going to do, along with looking at this data from the CISA audit, is it's going to allow us to focus and hone in on areas that we want to address and focus our resources. We don't have unlimited resources, no one does. So it's focus your resources. I think I've said this before, when you have a strategic plan and a mission and a vision, what you ask is when it comes time to okay, we need this. Does it fit with under the mission and vision? And if it does, then it's not a matter of saying we don't have the money. It's we need to find the money, and are we spending money in areas that don't fit with what our mission and vision is? So it really makes you focus those types of things. So anyway, those are the 3 meetings. If there are more needed, what she said is after we finish the 3rd meeting, if it's determined we need more, we have extra hours available with her. She said she will do what we need to do to get the process finished. Marianne?
Yes, will the board be able to review the stakeholder data?
Yes. Yep.
Before the planning process, or?
So the committee has not even seen the stakeholder data yet. She was still breaking it down over the weekend. So I will share that with the board at it'll be the same time, like when that's ready. I'm hoping sometime tomorrow. Then the board will get a copy of it. And eventually we're going to share that out with all staff and the community. It'll be posted for public dissemination.
Okay.
So.
And what 2 board members?
Chris and Nate were,
Thanks.
yes.
Perfect.
Yep. That was was expected boy.
Well, you're going to say.
Yeah. No, and so what we ran into there were a lot of community members that wanted to participate. And this is the thing this spring, we tried to kind of plan out what are days that would work for folks. We did the Wednesdays because we knew a lot of folks are either, their kids are in sporting events, or we wanted to be conscientious of the students, and we tried doing it in the afternoon on Saturday because we found that there was some soccer games and some other sporting events going on. So we really tried to wiggle it around. And Janet had originally said, well, it's really kind of important to have everybody there for all 3 meetings. And then when I told her, I said, listen, Janet, we're really struggling with getting some people that I think would bring a really, really valuable perspective cannot come to one of the meetings. And she said, you know what, in those situations, you have a wide enough net that you've cast that she said, I think, tell people to come to what they can, those folks. So that's what we settled on. Any questions? It's exciting. As exciting as the strategic planning process. You know, the word we've been using, Mike Hobbs and I have a running joke, is we like to call strategic doing. You know, the planning part is now, but then it's going to be strategic doing. We gotta make sure we're doing something with it after that. Yes.
Is this the part where we want to dismiss the student board members?
Yes, I think that would be appropriate.
We talked about, just so everybody knows, that this is a long meeting because it's school in the morning. And so we wanted to figure out a way to.
We felt it might be appropriate. You are certainly welcome to stay if you want. Yes.
That's all, yeah.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Okay, that's it.
Okay,
Any
that's
other
it.
questions for Jason related to his update?
I like, you know, the district administrator update. One of the reasons I like doing those updates about like the spring sports and stuff is once these are linked on the website, is that folks, the community can go and people are clicking on it. Is I like them to be able to kind of see these things, you know, that our students are doing and staff are doing, because we are proud of it.
Are we keeping any, or can Mike Seymour extract some of the data to see how many clicks those things get?
I'm getting a nod from Deb, so I'm gonna say yes.
Okay.
Yep. I know people are watching the YouTube video, because we'll get feedback about, hey, you know, next year can you think about, you know, this, like with the sound or with being able to view. So we have some ideas in mind for next year to enhance the experience. So for the first year, we're gonna feel like this was effective and we're getting people that at least people are watching it and they want to know more, which was the intent.
Good, thank you. Okay, agenda item number 9, the consent agenda items. Julie, the meeting notice certification? Or is that Julie? No.
No, it just was.
It just was.
Well,
I'm
it's
sorry,
part of
I'm
that.
still.
It's part of the.
Okay, so the meeting was properly noticed, okay. Minutes of the regular and closed session of April 10th, the financial status and fund reports. D, resignation retirements. E, hirings. And I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Also moved.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda items. Are there any discussion? I would like to have it noted in the minutes that we thank Ms. Vogt, Mrs. Neeb, and Mr. Pearson for their service. All in favor of approving the consent agenda?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Agenda item number 10, discussion action. Item A is the designation of the depository for district funds.
So just a brief overview. So Pam and Mary Ann and Julie and I were the committee that explored the two proposals and then listed pros and cons that you'll see in the packet and other data. We met 4 times for, I was thinking it was 10 hours, it was actually probably a little bit more than that, because we put a lot of time into it. There was a lot to discuss and talking about both of the institutions. So there are multiple options today. So what we wanted to do is, rather than go through each of the items line by line, you had a chance to look at it, is we wanted to open this up to questions from the full board. Any questions you may have, asking perspectives from each of us on the committee. Choices for the board, the full board to take action would be to vote to continue to use Associated Bank for our depository, vote to switch to using Forward Bank for our depository, or to not take action tonight if there were further discussion. There is no designated date. We have to establish a depository tonight at this meeting. We have to do that. In this case, if the board chose not to take action other than to just approve Associated, who has been the depository, that could be done. You can take action on your depository at any meeting. There is no time frame of when that needs to take place.
So in other words, we could discuss the pros and cons tonight, but we do not have to take action tonight.
You do not have to take action
Right.
tonight.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that.
That's not
Questions?
what I heard him say.
Oh, I'm
Still
sorry.
need to.
I heard you say that
We-
you
well, we
have
do
to
have
take
to
action
establish-
For the depository.
for the depository. It doesn't, however, we could change it
At
anytime.
any time,
So we
moving
do
throughout.
have to vote on one of them tonight.
that is correct.
However, next meeting, we could change our mind. But that is not what I heard. I heard we do have to make a motion and approve a depository.
We are required to have a depository tonight at the meeting. Whether or
So that's
not
not what
it
we're talking
remains based upon the discussion associated, or it switches forward, or if you want to continue discussion
Okay,
or seek further clarification.
yeah, I'm a little confused. Why do we have to designate a depository?
It's
Because
part
of
of
how
the
the agenda's written?
It's part of the
Or the
reorganizational meeting.
It's a reorganization meeting.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
So I hope,
So
so it kind of makes sense.
In the notes that, that we, you guys spent a lot of time on this, is one of the entities not wanting to like divide up services, they just want it all and one it is?
Neither of them are willing
Neither?
to split them up.
Okay, I thought.
I mean,
Associated was.
Yeah, I thought.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's why-
Associated said they would.
Right, okay.
Right.
Forward, you probably saw the response, and there's Forward Bank's response was in order to give us full services, they felt like they needed to service all components of our financials.
And the depository question is different than the benefit administration.
Correct.
And so, the benefit administration they're two separate issues. It can stay the way it is.
Yeah, Pam, to clarify that, we don't need to designate anyone for the benefit side, it's simply for the depository side.
Correct, just the checking and the money market.
And you can have those separate, you could have one bank for your depository and a different institution for the benefit side,
We could literally have every single account at a different
at a
bank
different bank.
if we chose.
Right, so the COBRA, the HSA, and the credit cards, it was determined when we met is something the board doesn't need to decide on. That's a decision that Pam and Jason make from a business perspective in regards to what that looks like. So those decisions, whether they move to a different bank or move to a different credit card company or stay with Associated, isn't on the table. It's just the money market accounts and our checking account. That's really on the table for the board to decide.
Rick, Chris, Nate, questions about all the data that you were given?
I'm just, did you, as it pertains to our costs, I'm able to see, kind of the breakdowns of each of the costs. Have we determined an overall cost estimate out of pocket for us?
So it's pretty much a wash.
It's a, Pam, would that be, it's a wash.
Yes, it was pretty much a wash between the two because the way that we went back to them was, can you do this scenarios? We basically ended up financially a wash between the two companies.
So the money markets were a wash and the checking, Associated charges us a fee, but pays us a higher interest on what we have, which washes that. Forward doesn't charge a fee and pays a little less on the percentages, so they equal out. Now, one could say you have a bigger risk in paying out fees to not get interest rate back, except Associated's track record has shown even when that happened, they lowered our fees. So from a cost perspective, I would say that what we evaluated, they're just really, the driving factor of how much it costs to be either at Associated or Forward in regards to what we're either getting in an interest rate or what they're charging us, they're the same. I mean, there's such little difference, maybe $15. I mean, because one charged for I don't know, I can't even remember what category it is. I mean, it's so minimal. I think what we also talked about is just which one would give back and contribute more to the community. I mean, I think that in the documents that you see. I mean, that definitely, aligns more with what Forward Bank's, track record has been. And I'll even say, went Wednesday night to Crystal Apple, and there were 4 banks that were sponsors of the Crystal Apple, of which Forward was one of the 4, but Associated was not. I mean, even the Crystal Apple, I mean, I noticed it. Again, there are a number of banks that are very contributing back to the community. I would say, the one we currently use, I wouldn't say had a strong track record with that. They've had a very strong track record of banking though. So, of which also came out in the meeting, the school district's been happy with our service with Associated. So that also exists. And then of course the big piece would be whether or not, one has physical brick and mortar in town, one doesn't. We also though did talk about the fact that many community members have been able to utilize both banks and also utilize Forward to help economy growth within Pittsville. I mean, so there's so many different, it's really about maybe more of our focus on what we're looking for and what we want from a bank and kind of that community perspective of that probably is the factor more than does one actually cost more fees or give us more interest rate? Because they both pretty much lined up equally when we challenged them and said, would you do this, would you do that?
One of the nice things about this process was, no matter what decision the board makes, we ended up in a better position with our,
Correct.
It's a good thing to have some competition.
Correct.
Right now,
Yes.
we are in a better position regardless.
Correct.
With the rates.
And then is this an annual,
We do it anytime.
Okay.
What's been the track record on how often we compare banks?
Pam?
I think we've been with Associated Bank since 1937, and since I started in 2015, there's never been another bank looked at, just because there wasn't one in the community and nobody asked.
Yeah, and to be transparent on this is that I was contacted by Forward Bank several months ago, and I went to Pam that had expressed an interest in making a proposal to us that they were exploring coming to the community and they wanted to explore giving us a proposal. And as I said at that time, we'll listen to anything that anybody wants to propose to us about. Because if we're looking at bottom line here to see, fiscally, if one or the other, if it came down to there was a huge discrepancy with the fees or the cost of the district, that to me is a no-brainer. Right. It truly was a wash. And I'll expound a little bit on what Julie was talking about. For me, is looking at the growth. Pittsville, the growth of Pittsville, the growth of the school district, the businesses in the community, and looking at, to me, what do you want to see out of a bank in a small town? It's not like I'm expecting them to put money and give money to the schools or to the community, because banks are businesses, they need to make money. But to look at what is the bank doing to move the community forward? And that was a big piece for me through this process, knowing that the fees, Julie mentioned it, I would be remiss if I didn't mention, Pam is very happy with the relationship as the business manager with Associated Bank. Moving forward, that is absolutely true. They are in the community. They have a brick and mortar location in the community. Those things are true, which is why this was 4 meetings and so many discussions, because this wasn't something that was, an easy decision one way or another to bring forward as a recommendation from the group.
So this could be reassessed again if they ever do build in our community.
There is no time frame about when you can designate a depository.
Did you follow, I see it on the note on here that because they seem to indicate during the presentation that Forward would be willing to put an ATM here. Now, is that like they're willing to consider it, or they will if we?
So the conversation, if you remember Dave's at the presentation, was they have different types of ATMs, the conventional ATM, and then what's the one called the smart?
Something like that.
It's like a smart ATM, it's like a video. You put cash in, you put checks in it. And I don't, you guys can jump into, you were here for the presentation. What he had said was, it's about $100,000 for one of those. And then they had actually met with Dan Giles. They asked if they could come and talk about a location for it here. And then what David alluded to was, with that cost, they had every intent in having a location here. They didn't know if they wanted to spend $100,000 for a short-term fix. However, did we get anything in writing? No, nope. And I don't think they're gonna do that, right? It's just a matter of,
Right.
They were hesitant because of the fact that he couldn't give us all the details. He said we've got up and coming situations going on.
correct.
Everything is in talks. And as it pertained to the ATM, I just have assumed that they were uncertain whether they really wanted to do it because they were not finalized with their decision making. So there was no real straightforward answer on that question.
It was from associated, isn't
Right.
it?
Yeah.
So I was just curious if there was,
Can I interject? We did ask that question specifically. And I asked them to put it in writing after after our April 25th finance meeting. And they said, the quote is there. It says, however, so they are considering ATM on campus, however, this may be superseded by our effort to open a brick and mortar location. So what basically they would consider putting one here, but if they open brick and mortar in town, it would be moved to that location. It would not stay at our campus.
Why would they want to spend $100,000 to put it here and then move it out in a year?
Well, that was what Dave said. At the meeting,
That was
that
one
was
type,
their-
that was one type of.
Right, that's the
There
full
were other
service.
options.
Yes, that was the full service one.
One of the options was for us to purchase our own ATM.
Yes.
And we would have to
that's
fill
all.
it with
Yes.
cash.
Right. Okay, we spent about 15 minutes, I think, on this topic already, so I would like to ask if the board would like to offer a motion.
Do we,
And we can continue discussion after a motion.
sure. Do we want to know where people are at before a motion, or do you want just a motion?
If someone's willing to make a motion, we would entertain it.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve Forward Bank as our district official depository.
Is there a second? And then we can continue discussion.
I was like,
It's been moved and seconded to make Forward Bank the Pittsville School District Depository. Let's continue discussion on that specific motion.
If Forward Bank had a building here in town, I would be more for it. But I believe we have to support what we have here in town. If we don't support what we have here in town, as evidenced by other things, we're gonna lose it. I would be fine with Forward Bank if the building was here. If they wanna put a building here, we'll discuss it, but I'm not for it right now.
I agree with Rick on this one. They've been very faithful to us for a long time. They've shown that they've been reasonable with our costs. And it sounds like in times that, I guess some of our costs we anticipated were gonna be higher, they came in with a lower rate for us, according to some of this. This is something that we can reassess if they do decide to build in our community at any time. Competition is good. I'm just more comfortable with knowing that we've got this is the largest institution here in our town. Not that Pam wouldn't do just fine with a change. So I guess I'd like to just hold off, I guess, on first financial, or I'm sorry, forward financial.
I guess it's like my rationale behind possibly considering it's so close, and I do agree about, we do have a brick and mortar here that, we want to support. But the couple of things that would make me inclined to consider the change to someplace that isn't necessarily here is, if they're supporting, they're looking to put the ATM machine here, and that they actually support, they do a lot more money to our community than the one that's here now. Like significantly more, so like certain things like the light, the critical one was a big one, but I know they've done other things too.
I truly think that, I really appreciate all the donations and the money that they have supplied for communities. And that is one huge plus factor, for Forward Bank.
And if they move down here and give jobs to our people like Associated does, I'm for it. But right now, I'm not.
We have to designate a depository tonight as part of the reorganization. So whatever the decision is tonight is the decision for the time being, is my understanding.
Until
Until
the board would change.
Until the board would
depository.
change it. You have to designate a depository as part of the reorganization. But we could change the depository in 2 or 3 months if we wanted to. Or we could continue it until the next annual meeting, or not annual meeting, reorg meeting.
So I would believe, since we have a motion, then we have to be a vote on the current motion, and then there could be another motion drafted potentially, depending on what the result of that was. I want to make one comment, just to be completely transparent, Rick and Chris, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I don't want to be disingenuous because I just wrote an article 2 weeks ago about supporting local businesses. It was my district administrator update. I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with that. I look at it, the other piece of it that I looked at through the lens of is also, it's a kind of a two-way street, is when you're talking about local businesses, what are those local entities giving back to the community in that capacity too? And that was, so I didn't want to seem disingenuous by writing an article about supporting local businesses and then say I was supporting supporting a local business, but we talked a lot about what investments are being made in the community, both like supporting businesses for business loans, those types of things. The donations are one piece. Certainly, they've made some large donations to the district. So I just wanted to clarify that I certainly agree with you on supporting local businesses. And I didn't want people to say, wait a minute, Jason, you wrote an article, and now you're saying something different. I just wanted to clarify for me where the kind of the difference lies with looking at what the reciprocation component is.
I guess first of all, we need to look at the optics of this too. I mean, is the community going to frown upon the fact that we're willing to take a chance on an outside business at this point in time with really no guarantees of anything except for what they've given us in writing? If we were to switch, and I can see that there would be some questions about why are we leaving a local business hanging out to dry? That's what I'm concerned about, I guess.
Yeah, I definitely don't think you're wrong. I mean, it's a very close call. I mean, they're a pretty big bank, right, hanging out to dry. I don't think it's gonna.
I'm not associated, we're not,
Yeah, right.
with this branch, we might be.
Right, yeah, and I do agree with that. I'm very reluctant. We weren't on the committee, we spent a lot of time.
Can I share? I'm going to share one particular piece of information for the thing. Is that we checked into a lot of these things. Well, I said it's a good process regardless. We went through and we asked questions like comparing this and that. And one of the things was the rewards with our credit cards rewards. And we had asked like, what are the rewards for both banks? And what we found out is that Associated, we are eligible for rewards for our credit cards, and we haven't been getting it for 28 years. And
we haven't had the credit cards. We haven't had the credit cards that long.
But
For as long as you have the credit
the cards have been eligible. We weren't told that our card was eligible for rewards. Those are the types of things where I talk about it being a reciprocation that I would expect. Part of that deal, you're a small town bank, is that they call you and tell you, hey, you're not collecting Because we know we don't have unlimited funds here as a school district. The margin is very small, and it's that component. I'm not trying to sway the board. I just want you to be clear, like, when I say this was very difficult and we met multiple times, it was for things like that. We're just talking about, what is it that we're looking to get out of the local bank? And once again, Pam is very happy with the associated services and aspect. So I don't want to misarticulate that for
I'd like to
Pam.
ask Pam what her opinion is about this, and what her thought process is on all this. And what can justify why you have made the decision that you've come to.
Well, I was the holdout. I did not vote for Forward in the financial committee meeting, partly because they are a local branch and it is the optics of it. I preach to all our staff members to use local. Now, yes, it's Green Bay centered bank, but Forward Bank is also Marshfield centered bank. Neither one are actually in the district, other than Associated. But, I mean, I do see that Associated Bank came with the best proposal overall, but when we started asking questions back and forth, it basically ended up where we were getting the same package at both banks as far as, the amount of interest, like they said, I don't know if it was Julie Marianne that said the amount of interest, offset the fees, so where we were netting to the same amount from both. So if this would have came up 3 or 4 months ago, I never would have went looking for another bank. Let's just say that. I've been happy with where we were. Are there some things that we're going to get better out of this, regardless of who we go with? Yes. But I've never had trouble with Associated Bank. I've never had a problem with them.
As Associated, I'm sorry.
Our credit card's gonna get better instantly.
Well, that's a third-party provider by both of them. I did not know their rewards. I never thought to ask for rewards, but then again, why didn't, like Jason said, someone could have said, hey, you know what, you're not getting your rewards. But that is a third-party provider for both banks.
Yeah, and that's an administrative decision.
Right, so the credit cards aren't going to be kept as part of your decision. That's a third-party provider.
So has Associated Bank raised the bar at all since they've now faced competition?
Yes,
Yes.
they have.
Significantly.
They have. They modified, they offered to do CDs at 3.5% for 3 to 6 months, which is kind of unheard of right now. I know market rates are going up, but they did offer to do that versus losing our money markets. They were willing to separate them. I don't know, Marianne, I think mentioned that you could designate a bank now and then change it a couple of months down the road. But if you designate Forward, it's gonna take me 3 to 6 months to do that conversion. So I don't want you to make a change too quickly, because I may just get one bank started with the change and then have to change back. If you're looking, if you're on the fence. So if you do commit to one, it would be nice if it stayed that way for a year at least.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I just say, even though I seconded the motion, I don't know that after all this, I'm comfortable switching.
And that's perfectly fine. Yeah, because the idea of seconding a motion is to move the discussion forward in a more targeted manner.
Yeah, I would just say it's not, like, I appreciate the Forward giving us, our community, more money than Associated has.
Yes.
Hopefully this can spur Associated to more, but it's not, for me, it's, I think, specifically what Rick mentioned, it's, I'm more in favor of supporting people that actually live there, that live in our community in this manner. And if Forward would have come forward and been like, we're putting this ATM there because America can build, I probably would feel a little bit differently, but I think just, like I said, we're not hitting anybody with the try. I think that the optics are, good and then we'll use pretty bad.
Well, and next year at this time, Forward Bank may have shovels in the ground.
Yes.
I hope so. associated would have to change even more things beneficial to us.
Okay, would anyone like to call the question? Or I can call the question. We have a motion and a second to designate our depository as Forward Bank. All in favor of the motion? Aye. Opposed? Motion fails, 3-2. Do I have another motion to designate a depository?
I'll make the motion to approve Associated Bank as the district's official depository.
Is there a second?
I'll second
There's a motion and a second to designate Associated Bank as our district depository. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-1. Okay, thank you everyone for reviewing the information and for your thoughtful discussion. Moving on to item B, open enrollment requests for the coming school year as well as the resident out requests. Jason, could you take us through this, please?
Yeah, so just, I'm gonna give a kind of a summary and overview, and you can ask specific questions. As you may recall, this summer, upon my transition in, we kind of looked at our open enrollment requests and our acceptance of open enrollment requests. There are various reasons you can deny open enrollment in requests. One would be related to special education services. If you had an open enrollment, and by open enrollment, I don't want to make presumptions, people know someone who does not live within the boundaries of our district is requesting to come to school within our school district. And open enrollment, the out would be someone who lives within geographically within our district going to another school. You can deny for open enrollment in if you do not have related services. So for instance, if a student was coming in with an IEP that for speech and language services, we contract out for our speech and language services right now. So we meet the minutes required for our resident students. So any students that live in Pittsville and go to school in Pittsville that we are legally obligated to educate, we count up their minutes required. That's how we determine staffing. So if we were to have numerous requests for students with disabilities that needed speech services and we didn't have enough services to meet their needs, we could deny open enrollment based upon that. Another one would be related to disciplinary actions. Expulsions in other districts are one that you can deny based upon, disciplinary type activities and stuff. This summer, and I shared with the board at one of the meetings, we accepted several open enrollment in requests that were originally denied related to needs because we were able to meet those services. And I have two philosophies. Number one is, I think we're a pretty darn good school district. And when students want to come here and families want to bring their kids here, I think we look at it from a lens of saying that, we take that, it's honorable profession. What we do here is important and we feel like we can meet the needs of folks. So we try to balance that with class sizes. So right now, class sizes are not an issue for us at our lower levels. Like we have, which is a good thing. If you look at primary levels, there are limits that say, they talking about AGR limits and stuff, but it's good practice to have at your early primary levels to have smaller class sizes. No one can argue that. We're in a pretty good place right now with staffing and with those numbers. Our recommendation is that we accept all open enrollment in requests other than if we are not able to meet service needs related to students with disabilities. I talked to Matt Sherwood about that. He doesn't feel that that's going to be something that's going to be an issue. It isn't certainly with any of the requests we have right now. It's something I want the board to keep in mind. A lot of times what will happen is we will get multiple family requests. So they'll request for 4 students within the same family. One of those children may have an IEP, have a disability. So effectively what you could say is you could deny for one member of the family, which I don't even want to get down that rabbit hole to tell you that I am totally not in support of doing something like that. So it's a really really complicated process to go through, but it ultimately comes down to right now is people are trusting us that they want their students to come here to Pittsville. We think we do a pretty good job. And we are a stable to maybe slightly declining enrollment. And if you turn someone down for an open enrollment in request, I've seen this in other districts where you deny based upon space and they have siblings, and once they don't come with an older sibling that's now in school somewhere in another district, the whole family is gone forever. You're not gonna get them in. So I'll get off my soapbox, but I am very on the side of taking students and meeting the needs of those students, as long as it's not impacting our ability to support our own students, and that has not been the case with any of these requests that we've seen.
I'll make a motion to approve the following recommendation of the 2023-2024 school year, to approve all resident open enrollment applications and approve all non-resident open enroll applications for regular and special education.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Further discussion or questions?
I did want to make one point about the open enrollment out. One thing Matt Sherwood did, what we'd like to know too is, we have more students coming in than out. That's a good thing, really good problem to have. Matt Sherwood contacted these families to inquire. It's just good practice. So we see you're open enrolling out, is there a reason? What we found for the majority, you'll see Marshfield, his parents work in Marshfield. Several of the 4K families told Matt that the kids are coming here in kindergarten. It's just right now while they're in 4K, they're going to Marshfield because of the work convenience piece. So that's good data for us to have, to know, like, we just asked them, is there anything, that we're not doing down here? What we didn't hear was there's nothing glaring where it wasn't like, yeah, no, we're not happy with this. But it was mainly convenience as far as just either a parent's workplace or whatnot. We're going to continue to do that because that's good data for us to track.
Those mean that there any negative.
Matt didn't get any negative comments about our district from those calls. And we have very few people that open enroll. It's a good problem to have, right? Like, we don't have very many that do it. I will tell you, we have six open enrollment ends in our 4K program, our current open, and we have 3 more in the alternative window that will be coming in that we're anticipating that we're outside the deadline. So effectively, we're gonna have 9 open enrollment ends in our 4K program. And if you remember one which we discussed about, we go over the 5 days. We had 4 of those folks indicate that was the reason they were open enrolling in, was to get, because of the consistency piece. So data, these are all data-driven decisions. We like to track data, and we would be the first to admit if we were hearing from people like this was a problem. You have to be responsive to those types of things to find out what it is that families want. So I just wanted to put that in.
Minus 4K, there are only 4 students opting out.
They're minus the 4, what you see on this list right now. Yeah, Deb?
There are 4 students opting out, open enrolling out,
I think
that are
there's
not
more.
4K. Is that correct?
Okay.
I mean, that's pretty remarkable, actually.
Yeah, it's a good thing. A lot of good data for this.
Right, and 4K, it really is about where you're, they're all, they're all in childcare centers. I mean, so it is not about necessarily where that child's getting their home for school. It's where they're going to childcare, 4K.
Or the older kids have never attended here, they may have moved into our district and want to continue high school.
Got it. Okay.
Got it.
And all that's collected through that data.
Thanks.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the open enrollment in and out recommendations. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item C, employee job descriptions.
Okay.
One of
Go ahead.
Jason's responsibilities as superintendent is to assure that job descriptions are up to date and reflect the work that people are expected to do. There's a lot of work that went into this, a lot of work all up and down, I hate to say the ladder. All employees were involved in this, paraprofessionals, custodial staff, definitely the teaching staff, as well as I know that the administrative staff put a lot of work into collating all this information. So this is actually an information only item, and Jason, I'll turn it, and thank you to everybody for the work that was done on this.
So Deb started this process by uploading all of these digitally because many of them were just paper copies and had not been updated since the 90s, several from the 80s. And what we did is once they were digital, these were sent to all employees in those groups. So every single employee, every position in this district now has a job description. That was not the case previously. And all of the employees within that group gave feedback on their job description because they know their job better than we do. Is this accurate? Are these the main description? They gave us feedback, we put it together, reviewed it, and that's what you see here. Tonight, we're pretty happy with the process and what we have from it. These are all gonna be uploaded as it states onto the website and accessible. And then the next step would be, once you have the job descriptions, is then gonna be correlating the evaluations based upon your job description. It's hard to have evaluations when you don't know what your specific job descriptions are. So a lot of work by a lot of people, but we're very happy with the result.
I'll make a motion to approve the employee job descriptions as presented with the following changes.
I'll second.
I don't know if we need.
Oh, yeah,
This
there's no
is not
vote.
an action.
It's just
vote.
information only.
Oh,
But
okay.
it said to motion.
It says
Did it?
motion.
It does say
Or you can.
suggested motion. Yes, it
Yeah.
does say that.
You
Okay.
can absolutely approve.
Okay, so Julie has made a motion to approve all the job descriptions. I think I heard a second from Chris. Okay, any other questions? I would suggest that the minutes reflect our gratitude to everyone for all the work that was put into this. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We're on to item D, second reading and approval of the updates to policy 834, use of school forest.
That is second reading with no changes.
Second reading, yes. So.
I'll make a
any dis-
motion to accept the second reading and approve updates to policy 834.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. We have a first reading of policy 141, board officers. This actually appears more as a rewrite, reorganization of this policy.
This was a WASB recommendation. This mirrors what was the recommended language from WASB to use for our existing language.
Okay. Any questions, comments?
I'm going to move forward.
Julie, good with moving it forward? Rick?
Okay.
Good with moving it forward? Okay. It will move forward to the June meeting. First reading of updates to policy 453.4, administering medications to students.
So update, if you recall, months ago we had the discussion about the herbal component. Gina has added language to cover the supplements and the natural products and the herbal components with feedback from WASB and other policies related to that, the adverse side effects.
So my only question on this is all the colors being added? Like I wasn't sure why there's different colors, like is there
the green-
something?
The green was moved
It was moved.
from another,
It was-
we condensed.
We just moved it to a different location to make
Yeah.
it flow better.
Yellow is new, green was moved.
Okay,
Green was moved. And then was Gina able to get any additional input from WASB?
Well, so more or less, Gina was this policy. Deb, do you remember where was this one of the WASB policies that she got?
No, this comes from a recommendation from Dr. Pulvermacher.
Or assigning physician? So we did finally secure an assigning physician after a years-long search. Dr. Pulvermacher from the North Shore Clinic agreed to be our assigning physician. He wanted to review all of our medical policies. He had requested, thank you for the reminder of that. He had requested this language be updated in our policy with him as our assigning physician. Thank you.
Okay.
I don't have any issue moving it on.
Okay, Chris, Rick, okay, moving on. Great, thank you. Item G, student accident insurance.
Pam, this is just a renewal, correct?
Yes, so student assurance services, said that the $10.50 per pupil would not increase for this current school year. So if the board approves it tonight, I'll give them a current enrollment count plus childcare. And that's all school-sponsored, school-supervised activities. And athletic coverage would still be available to parents and guardians outside of the school district.
I don't even know who does this, so I don't even know if there is, but is there another company we can get another quote from? Like, are there more that do this?
Yes, there is, and they refuse to quote it. This is the second year in a row. So it's student accident insurance, and we had some pretty significant claims a few years ago. That's why we switched. And those claims are still like in our 3-year history, so they declined to offer a quote.
When do those claims get off?
Like every 3 years, it's sort of like workers' comp, they just average the last 3 years.
So next year we'll be off it.
Hopefully, we'll be able to get a quote again. Mhm.
And those are the only two options that exist?
That I am aware of, yes.
Okay.
Then in June's board meeting and annual report, there will be what the actual premium is based on our enrollment.
Would someone like to make a motion related to the student accident insurance?
I'll make a motion to accept the student accident insurance renewal through student assurance services for the 23-24 school year.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
It's been moved and seconded to accept student accident insurance renewal through the student insurance services with no increase for the coming school year. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item H, Delta Vision Employee Insurance.
So over the last few years, I've had employees ask about Delta Vision. And just today now, I spoke with Delta Vision again and told them what I was gonna be presenting after discussing with Jason. And they said, well, if you guys, do approve what you have, we're gonna lower your premiums based on that. So they offered us up 4 quotes, and this quote was the best as far as what it offered. It offered covered exam for just $20 a network, where the other 3 plans, one had the exam, but it covered only $120, I think, for frames and contacts. And then the other 2 didn't cover cost of exam at all. And while it's not an issue if our people take our health insurance, because it's covered that way, but we have a lot of people, if it's like our Delta Dental, that don't take health insurance, but take the dental policy. So I think we would have a lot of people take this. If you want to scroll down to the bottom, Deb. So the premium is phenomenal. I would have known it was so low, I probably would have looked at this much sooner. And it's a 4-year rate guarantee. So, do you have this one up too, Deb?
Yeah, let me switch.
Ooh. There you go.
Nice.
Yes, get it on it. So Jason and I talked, we did a premium share at 90-10 and 75-25, and for consistency's sake, we decided to leave it at the 90-10, where the employee would pay 10%. So the paycheck portion is 30 cents or 76 cents over the 20 checks for the employee, and the district's charge would be $274 and $683 per paycheck. So if the same amount of people still take what they do for dental, take vision, it would be a cost to the district of about $8,600.
And for the benefit that staff receive, for the pennies on the dollar, truly, Pam's right, it's an outstanding benefit for staff.
Right now?
We have vision available through Aflac. That's all employee paid, and it's tiered depending on how many people they have, and if you want contacts or just glasses or both. So we still offer it through Aflac, but Aflac is 100% employee paid.
And so an option, is this a better plan than Aflac? Like, so if, even if
I
we
would
did.
say yes, but it may not be for everyone. I mean, if you have daily wear contacts that you're taking and throw out every single day, you know, it may cost you more than a person that wears monthlies or bi-weeklies, that type of things. Or someone whose eyes change a lot, or you've got little kids with significant eye problems and they need glasses all the time. It may not be a better plan, but they still have the Aflac option.
If they wanted to choose that.
People, this would still be voluntary, they can still waive it, just like they can waive dental if they choose not to.
It just made sense. One of the conversations was we offered Delta Dental to our employees. It made sense to have the vision piece too, because that's a big component. When, you know, we've had the conversations about attracting and retaining employees and the value of this benefit for the cost.
And Delta is a senior supporting organization, so the majority of optometrists are going to be covered. For ophthalmologists.
I got two questions.
Sure, so we could offer this. We have an option though to take this plan and offer it to employees, whether we would choose to contribute or not. So we could offer another plan, Aflac and this. Same thing, employees are paying 100%, which is very little of the premium, if that, but so it's an option.
Yes, so the premium, if we were to have employees pay 100%, the premiums would have been for the employee $6.27 a month and family $15.61 a month. So, I mean, that was the original plan where we were sharing, and they said, well, if you're gonna keep your share that low, we'll consider it a contributory plan where the employer is the primary sponsor. So then they would lower the premiums even more. But we would still keep Aflac Vision. We have a couple of people using it, they have
They could
choose,
continue to do
they can
so.
choose to discontinue it in May open enrollment, which is this Wednesday, and just take this plan, or they could have both. There's nothing that says they can't. Because Aflac is not a technical insurance, it reimburses you for costs.
So you could double up the benefits.
So you
for those
could,
that
and then
have
like the
both
$150
reimbursement.
that you pay, Aflac would pay whatever reimbursement piece they would pay.
All right, so in our current job postings, is it listed because Aflac would help with that? I'm assuming it doesn't say, it says dental, but it probably doesn't say vision.
No,
Benefits.
under Aflac, it's listed under Aflac, but it's listed as employee paid only.
Right, no, as we advertise, a possible employee
Yes,
would see that at this point, vision's not offered.
yes, that is
That's
correct.
correct?
At this point, they would see it as not offered, correct.
All right. And you came up with these numbers, single 20 and family 55, and you determined those numbers off of subscribers for
For our
the
dental, for dental.
So there's been no survey sent out to see.
No, because we literally just got these numbers. Our first batch of numbers came in about a week or so ago, and then the updated numbers came in just this afternoon.
Yeah.
So we did not survey staff.
I'm just curious, why would we assume that just because they take dental that they might take vision?
Because it was a data point I had. We can't assume it. In reality, I mean, families, you know, if you're a single person and never had problems with your eyes, you're not going to take
So
it.
basically, it's an example.
Yes.
Yeah, we wanted to give you
It's a
something.
data point I have.
It's an estimate probably on the high side.
So the
For sure.
district cost,
Yes,
the district cost is actually gonna be lower with fewer subscribers?
Right.
yes,
Yes, because we would offer to pay 90% if the board approved this proposal.
yes. So if we had the exact number of subscribers and we stayed at 10% or whatever, it would be less, yes.
And, you know, Chris kind of touched on it, that component too is when you're trying to attract staff. Every little bit matters when you're posting benefits to, you know, staff and also for your existing staff to offer additional options for.
And I probably have 2 a year that'll ask, hey, you guys have vision yet? You have vision yet? So it has been out there probably since I started here.
The 75, how many could? So what would be the largest liability?
If I had to guess, I would say probably just about all of them.
So you've estimated here 75, how many could take it? Like, we have how many employees, and I understand some would take family plan, which they're both here, so you don't, I mean, like, what's our biggest liability if 100% of?
I would say this, because I'm trying to think if we have anybody eligible for dental that doesn't take dental at all. You know, so we may have some people that take a family health insurance, but only take single dental, or vice versa. Or we'll have people that don't take any health insurance, but take dental.
So 75 employees, 55 family, and 20 single are the most, that's the largest liability we could have.
Best guess with the staffing we had 3 months ago.
That number is gonna be pretty close to our highest
Right.
liability, would be that 86, 11, 38.
Any other questions for Pam or for Jason?
Do we have to decide tonight?
Yes, because open enrollment
Open
is
enrollment's
on
Wednesday.
Wednesday, and I have to get my packets made tomorrow. If we waive it, it wouldn't be offered again until May of next year. We wouldn't be able to get it into open enrollment this year.
Would we be able to get the same deal next year?
Probably not, no,
Probably not.
probably not, and the fact
This
that
is
we're
for-
locking in for 4 years
4 years?
is almost unheard of.
It's a really good deal for staff and for the district to offer it as that benefit.
And this
Yeah.
cost is probably on the high side.
Yes,
The district share, yes.
Yes.
Yes. I think what helped too is we've been, as long as I've been here, Delta Dental has been part of the district. I don't know how long before I got here. I mean, if it's been around probably 20 years, 25 years, I think that helps too.
Can you remind
We have
me, what is
history.
our health insurance portion? Like, what's the
Percentage,
87.
we pay 87.4 and the employee pays 12.6%. Dental is 10.90.
And that's where we came up with this
That's
number,
where
to
we
be
came up
consistent with the
10.90
dental.
for vision.
It's exactly the same as the dental benefit. We didn't think it would make sense to change it just for the consistency for staff. It would make sense.
And the cost to the staff, whether it was 25% or 10%, is literally pennies per paycheck.
Other questions? Then I would entertain a motion.
In the interest of of future employment attraction, I'm gonna make a motion to approve the employee vision coverage through dental vision.
Delta Vision. Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve employee vision coverage. Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item I, WASB Board Governance. Do you want me to talk
Yes,
about that?
please.
I will. I'm sure that all of you get mail from WASB, like I do. And a while ago, they sent a flyer out related to spring workshops that are focused on board governance. They've come up with I think they probably tweaked their model of board governance. And it's been the subject of all the in-person meetings. I think we missed the majority of the in-person meetings, but they do have an online version of the training, and that's scheduled for Tuesday, the 23rd of May. Would members of the board be interested in attending? Jason, do you have
I have the dates.
Oh, you
I
do,
did.
okay.
So I do want to, for as far as in-person, Oshkosh on Tuesday, May 16th, that's next Tuesday. Whitewater on Wednesday, May 17th, and Tomahawk on Thursday, May 18th. And then the Zoom option would be Tuesday, May 23rd. Right. So probably what Tomahawk would be the closest, and that's a stretch. Whitewater, Tomahawk would be a horse apiece. Oshkosh, I suppose.
Right. You know, I think that there would be value in some members or all members of the board participating. I'm interested in participating for sure. And I think we could we register just one person and then we come to this room?
Yes.
So we don't have to, right. And I think the in-person meetings are like $100, $125. It's an expensive dinner, I think. Where the online version, I believe, is like $60.
Yes, it's about half as much.
Yeah.
The online version.
It starts at 6. And I'm sure if schedules are such that you couldn't get here until 6:15 or something, I think that would be fine. And if people can't make it, I mean, I see this as something optional. I don't see where everyone has to do it. I'll tell you what, if people want to check the family calendars.
What was the date for the online?
Tuesday, May 23rd.
Okay.
If people would like to check your family calendars and let Jason know, I'll definitely be participating in it, and I'd like to participate in this room. So others can, or in a district room.
Could we sign this out? And I will, just to be clear, I would like to participate, if I'm able to participate.
Bingo.
Related to my procedure, I will.
Okay.
I will be there.
Okay, sounds good. So please get back to Jason if you'd like to participate.
So are you, Marianne, are you gonna register then?
I would like it if Jeff could register me,
Okay.
because then you don't have to reimburse me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then everybody can participate through yours as well. That's it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Item number 11, the legislative report. Well, for several months now, I've been, talking about how everything is, people are, coming with their different proposals and things like that, and the rubber's gonna hit the road here. In fact, it started, I believe it was last week, Joint Finance started meeting and voting on things. Traditionally, what happens is the school funding thing is one of the very last things that Joint Finance votes on. I haven't been following the details of it very closely. I'm thinking maybe Jason, you've been following it more, or Julie?
DHS is gonna be last in this year.
Oh, DHS is last this year.
DPI will go
Okay, they won't go, okay.
I mean,
Second
before-
from the last.
second from the
Okay,
last.
probably second from the last, okay. So, what intel do you have?
So this is a normal part of this process. There's a back and forth and a give and take. So the Joint Finance Committee removed 12 pieces from the governor's budget proposal. Probably the biggest one that impacts us and once again, this is preliminary, there's gonna be some back and forth, was the student mental health funding. The governor allocated a significant amount of funds to student mental health. Like in the big piece for us would have been, they were changing the language of how, rather than having to apply for grants and not know, am I gonna get this grant, is actually allocate funds to districts, so you have that certainty, and then change the language up to what you could use it for. Before, I believe the language was student mental health personnel. They're gonna change the language, or the governor's proposal changed the language to allow you could use it to hire counselors and school psychologists. Any positions that could meet that student mental health need. I would be shocked if that isn't gonna be revisited at some point. But right now, that was probably the biggest takeaway. Other than that, there were no huge surprises in there. So, I mean, that is certainly something for us. We have a position, one of our 3 counseling positions is funded through a grant, which we all know the uncertainty that creates is that from year to year, you have to apply. And I would tell you, a district our size, doing anything less than 3 school counselors, having 2 at our K8, our 4K building at our high school would be negligence on our part, frankly, and towards our students. So we're committed to making sure that happens. It just would be a lot easier if we had some certainty as far as that was built in rather than having to apply for that. That was my biggest takeaway, but it's so early yet. Just like when the governor put his proposal out, it was like, take it with a grain of salt, same thing here, and now they'll start negotiating back and forth. And it's gonna be, I would be shocked once again if we see anything before October, for certain.
Wow, hey, what? Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Like where we have a final, where we know, I don't know, Pam, tell me.
Oh, well, in terms of your final number,
Yeah.
yes.
It would be the first time we've been able to approve
The
our
per
budget
pupil-
before the state had theirs done.
The per pupil piece is a big one for us, and whether it's inside or outside the revenue limits, that's like the game changer for us when we hear those numbers. That won't probably be definitive until we get into the fall. And that's why we have to project the budget.
And I think also with all of the talk about student mental health, a lot of it related to the COVID lockdowns, I'm sure there will be something put in for student mental
I have no
health.
doubt.
It's just, what's it gonna look like? Are they gonna go with some type of, categorical aid? Are they gonna stick with the grant program? Just what's it gonna look like? But I think there'll definitely be something in there.
Still too early to tell, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the timeline for the budget, remember, is to have it passed at the end of May, and then it goes to the governor in June, and then they have it signed at the end of June.
Mhm.
I think, I'm always an optimist. I think it's going to be signed in July, but I think there's gonna be
I
a
love
lot of
that
back and
you're
forth.
an optimist.
Yeah, I am. Most of them are. But then still, we don't get our per pupil aid until later because DPI has to.
Right,
Go
we
through their
wouldn't find out our
process.
stuff from DPI
Yeah.
until October 16th.
Right.
That's
So,
how it is.
Also on the legislative reports, last month, we talked that Senator Teston came to visit the district. A little while ago, Representative Vandermeer came to visit the district and had a great visit with her. Jason, Julie, would you like to add any specifics about the visit we had?
She's very impressed with our buildings, very impressed with the education of our students, extremely impressed with this building and what we offer our students.
And our childcare, the PCCC,
Yeah.
which we said is something really big.
One of the things we talked with her about was the resolution that we had go through the resolutions committee. I was not able to obtain language from WASB prior to that visit, but we'll work on that. And she said she'd take a look at it, and she didn't commit to introducing a bill related to the student transportation, but I know she'd appreciate the legislative language. Questions? Comments? Okay, let's go on then to the public comment period. Do we have anyone registered for public comments?
Nope.
Okay. So lucky 13, it's time to convene and go into closed session. The board will consider moving into closed session as per Wisconsin State Statute 19.85 per N1 per NC per NE. I have a motion to go into closed session.
Also move.
Roll call vote, Gina?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
We are now,
20 minutes.
we are now in closed session.
It's only gonna take 20 minutes.
Good thing I brought my
Yep, no, it's gonna take 25.